One of the all-time great Jacksonville Jaguars. He holds the record for most career rushing touchdowns, most rushing touchdowns in a season, most rushing yards in a season. One of the all-time greats of UCLA football. One of my favorite guys to cover back in the day. Now he's a colleague of mine at the NFL Network alongside J.B. Long, bringing to you the ass-kicking that is the Los Angeles Rams in 2017 on the radio. Maurice Jones-Drew, good to see you.
Good to see you. It's been great.
How has it been great watching the Rams this year?
You know what? Last year, being my first time calling games, it was tough. I mean, you're winning games 13-3. They did go on a streak early in the year and then kind of started going down, and they threw Jared in. The first game was against the Patriots. I mean, that's tough to do. He shined a little bit, but this year, it seems like it kind of was the perfect storm. You play the perfect without Andrew Luck. You score 46 the first game, and it was like, wow, we have something special. Then you stumble against the Redskins, and then we called a barn burner against the Niners.
That was incredible. That Thursday night game, we were all there for that.
It was one of the best.
That was exhilarating.
Right. It was one of the best games I've ever called because it was just like touchdown here, touchdown there. Guys were, and then Aaron Donald finishes at the end.
But that was with Brian Hoyer too.
Right.
What's it going to be like with Jimmy G?
It's going to be great, and I think
it's going to be great.
It's going to be phenomenal, and I think what Wade Phillips has done with his defense and the way they put guys in position. But from that point on, the Rams felt that they could beat anyone. And to go 3-1 in every quarter of the season has been awesome. And, man, they've been rolling.
Were you concerned about that? I mean, pretty much they sat everybody, like I said yesterday, from Jared Goff to Warren Beatty. Anybody in the history of the Rams pretty much got sat, the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, any concern over that?
No, not at all. Talking with Coach McVay about it and a lot of the players, I mean, that was a meaningless game. You don't want to go out there and get a guy hurt. What he said was the risk outweighed the reward. Right, so okay, if we do win and we get the 3 seed, we're the 3 seed. If we lose and some things happen, we still can be the 3 seed, which will happen. So he wasn't too much worried about it. It is what it is, and we go forward.
All right, so let me ask you this then, because the idea was, okay, you rest your starters, smart move. Last thing you want is Gurley to be coming into this game like the same way that LaShawn McCoy is going into the game against Jacksonville, banged up, not practicing today. Who knows? He won't be 100%.
Right.
You definitely don't need Todd Gurley in that situation, and he's so crucial to this team. Understand, but the idea was you lose, you wind up the 4 seed. Now, yes, that brings Cam Newton into your house most likely, but now obviously this is all something that is not guaranteed to pre-think, but it's much better to be the 4 seed. You get the win, and you get to take on Nick Foles in Philadelphia as opposed to have to go to Minnesota, where the Rams started with a great first 15 scripted, scored, and then one time they visited that building, scored right off the bat, and then Minnesota smacked them down. You don't give any credence to that thought?
Not really. When you listen to what the Rams spoke after the game, they wanted to go back to Minnesota. They wanted a chance to go back and redeem themselves against that team. That's a great defense. They played well, but it was 7-7 going into the fourth quarter. Cooper Kupp fumbled the ball going in. If they would have won in the half 14-7, I think it would have been a different game. So they felt like they had a lot of opportunities out there that they left. And then on top of that, you played both of those teams, so it doesn't matter wherever you go. You just have to go. You know, going into Minnesota, you're more prepared for that atmosphere. You went there before. You know how loud it's going to be. You know what to expect. If you go to Philly, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what the weather's going to be like. As we've seen the last couple of weeks, it's been freezing on the East Coast. At least Minnesota is a controlled environment. So I don't think they thought about that. I thought when I talked to all the coaches, they were more worried about who they were going to play in the wild card. And, you know, when you hear Coach McVay speak, this defense that they've played, or that the Falcons are playing, they've played them against them in Seattle, the same defense. It's the same defense the Jaguars ran, they played it against. So they're more familiar with the schematic part of Atlanta's defense than they are anything else.
Maurice Jones-Drew here in the Rich Eisen Show. What makes McVay work? Seeing him so up close.
Well, you know what? To be honest, he's not afraid. He doesn't have that, and I guess that sounds bad, but he's not scared to call a play that he feels can work.
So you've been around coaches who are that way? Who are scared to call a play?
It's not necessarily scared. They get nervous, right? Like, we haven't practiced it. It didn't look well in practice. We're not going to run it. Coach McVay is completely different. He's like, listen, we're innovative. We're going to do things. You see they're doing the fly sweep. I mean, he thinks outside the box what he wants to do offensively. The things they did for Jared Goff has been phenomenal, right? Where you put Dan Orlovsky in the locker room early around him so he can have an immediate person who's played in this league for a long time, played behind Peyton Manning, a bunch of other elite quarterbacks, how they think. And then you have Greg Olsen, you have Matt LaFleur, then you have Coach McVay. So all around him are quarterback knowledgeable guys. And so what they've done is they've pretty much made this a quarterback offense where you pick the play, you run the play. It's on you. And with that being said, obviously Jared leans on Todd Gurley a lot. One of the great things they did for Todd Gurley is getting him in space. Todd Gurley is similar to LaShawn McCoy, not as shifty, but if you get him in space, he can make plays. You saw that 80-yard screen.
Unbelievable.
Right? I've never seen anyone outrun Adoree Jackson like that. And I'm the biggest Trojan hater you'll find, right? But Adoree Jackson ran a 10.3 too. So to see Todd Gurley outrun him shows you the kind of gas and the speed he has. So I think what Coach McVay's done is he's utilized his players, and then really to go out and get Andrew Whitworth to go out and be aggressive.
Les Snead this offseason.
Phenomenal.
Okay, so you get Whitworth, who Bengals fans who are listening to us right now are like, oh, God, we could have had a totally different season if he was there since snap one. You get him, you redo the offensive line with more than just him. And then you go out, you draft Cooper Kupp, which was a really brilliant maneuver. You go out and you get Sammy Watkins for a song pretty much before the season begins. All of the kids that they drafted in the past couple of years. Now, with what Les did in the last couple of months before the season, and McVay, he's coach of the year. You put it all together, and you've got yourself a whole different ball of wax with Wade Phillips on top of it.
Well, there is a case that you can get an MVP off this team, a defensive MVP off this team. You can get a coach of the year, an executive of the year, and assistant coach of the year in Wade Phillips for the turnaround they've done for the Rams. So, I mean, they put together a team, and the one guy that we didn't mention is Robert Woods.
That's true. He could be the number one receiver on the team.
He is the number one receiver on the team, and that's crazy, right? And so we talk about Buffalo and what they've done. They let go of Sammy Watkins, Robert Woods, Marquise Goodwin, Marcel Darius. Chris Hogan. I mean, they've let go a ton of talent that they've had up there, and to see everyone playing well and to see the Bills still make it, it was a win-win for everybody.
So how did it land in Rams Park? Jeff Fisher's comments with them showing up in Tennessee. And him being there saying that he left them in a better place.
I mean, when you talk to Coach McVay about it, it really didn't bother him because he's in the moment. I know there were some people that were like, that's bad. But to be honest, he did. He drafted Todd Gurley at number 10 when Todd was coming off an ACL, right? I mean,
didn't Les do it too?
Yeah, Les was there. I mean, they were all part of it. It wasn't. I think what Jeff was saying was that he was part of the rebuilding of the Rams, and he got fired. And Coach McVay, but what they've done with what he had, part of being a new coach is, it's like in marriage. When you marry a woman or your significant other, and they have kids, guess what? You got to bring their kids in. You just can't marry the other person and say, I don't want your kids. So Coach McVay took in obviously what he had, what Jeff Fisher had left, and what Les had brought and all those things, and then they were able to change it and form it into their own.
Don't be so even-keeled about that. Come on, that had to piss some people off.
Some people probably in the organization, but I mean, to me, I saw him. I said hello.
Okay.
I mean, this is a different team than what it was last year.
Okay, before we take our break, what is the challenge, do you think, with Atlanta coming in? Because they have been points challenged, okay? They have been somewhat, offensively inefficient might be a light way to put it, okay? Right. Sarkisian is coming back to this building of all places for him to try and win a football game, right?
Right.
And the Falcons, despite all the hangover talk, have a ticket in the race right now. So what is the concern? And also, in the Fisher era, maybe the most disastrous game they played was against the Falcons in that building.
No question.
Right? So what do you have for me on
the biggest thing is you have to stop Devonta Freeman first and foremost. You can't let them run the ball. Because if they can run the ball, then Matt Ryan can use play-action pass, throw the ball down to Julio. I think that defensively, that's what they have to do. They have to stop the run. And then, two, you have to figure out a way to slow down Julio. I mean, it's tough to stop him. Only person that can stop him is Matt Ryan. He's done that a couple times this year, so you hope that Matt Ryan shows up. And then offensively, you just have to score points. Because I think if you score your 29.9 that you've averaged this year, you'll definitely win. Because they haven't scored over 20. So, but there is going to be a challenge because this is a receiver that they've never faced this year. They've never faced a Julio or Antonio Brown.
Faced a big physical receiver. I mean, I guess I'm just going through right now. I mean, Jeffrey, right? I mean, against the Eagles.
But Jeffrey's not as fast. He's more of a possession catcher.
And then Diggs and Thielen aren't really that type of receiver, right?
But Thielen gave him an issue, and they had a couple DBs hurt, and so but I think the person
Dez, right?
Yeah, Dez. I mean, Tremaine Johnson did a great job of slowing him down. Yeah. So, I mean, Tremaine Johnson is another player on this team that doesn't get enough credit, and I've been trying to pump him out to people saying that he's covered every number one receiver for every team this year, and he's done a great job of locking them down, limiting them to catches, touchdowns, whatever you want to call it, yards. He has had another challenge this week.
Back in 60 seconds with Maurice Jones-Drew. I want to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars' chances, and then about Josh Rosen at the next level.
I'm
talk
ready to go.
UCLA Bruin football. With Maurice Jones-Drew, we are back in 60 seconds right here on The Rich Eisen Show. Maurice Jones-Drew back here on The Rich Eisen Show. Okay, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're taking the tarp off to get some extra seats.
Ecstatic about it. I can't believe it.
What are folks back home, one of your old homes, saying?
I've
right
been
now?
getting texts. First of all, everybody wants tickets, and I think
Do they think you have an in?
Yeah, they think I have an in, and I do, but I'm not going to give it up. I mean, that in is going to be used for the family and when I come.
Okay,
right? I can't use my in on other folks.
So you have not hooked a single person up with a Jacksonville Jaguar playoff ticket?
Not at all. I believe Shad Khan and what he's done, and what the Jaguars, Dave Caldwell, and Doug Marrone, their staff, they've done. They deserve to earn every penny.
No, don't leave out Coughlin, right?
Oh, yeah, Coach Coughlin as well.
What has, based on your knowledge and what you can tell, what has Tom Coughlin brought to this equation?
Well, you have a young team, and I thought when Gus Bradley was there, Gus Bradley is a veterans coach, a guy that when I was there, he was like, hey, Maurice, you know what? You don't need to be staying in the hotel during training camp. You can stay at home because I trust you. Mm-hmm. And he lends his trust out before you earn it. His belief is, if I trust you and I treat you like an adult, you should act like one. Well, you have a lot of young kids on that roster when they were turning it over. And so what Coach Coughlin's brought in and Coach Marrone is straight discipline. Like, this is an expectation, and there's consequences to this expectation if you don't, arise to it. So
and they sat Fournette one week.
Yeah, they'll sit for missing a team photo. Right? As small as that is, that there's an expectation. You didn't want to show up, there you have it. And so I think when you have that with a lot of young players, they understand, look, okay, I have to stay on this straight and narrow because if I go off, there can be consequences, and I don't want to be embarrassed.
There have been times when Fournette's not been on the field, and I notice it because I had him in fantasy. It's quite simple, all right? And then where Yeldon's out there and Fournette is not, why? Is there something? What's there behind that?
He's been banged up a lot. Ankle injuries. You saw he had a thigh contusion. He's just been banged up. When you run the way he runs, you're going to get hit. That's going to happen.
So it's nothing disciplinary or
no, I
rookie
think
wall or
I think
something?
the one disciplinary was the time when they kind of sat him for the whole game. And I think it was against Cincinnati. They won the game. They've won without him. And so, that kind of shows you as well, like, you're not as important as some may think you are. But he is very important. And I think, part of the struggles that you're seeing the last couple of weeks are that he's not breaking those 100-yard games, and they're getting behind, then Blake Bortles has to throw the ball more than what you want him to. So the real difference is they brought in a lot. They brought in Barry Church. They brought in Calais Campbell.
He's been terrific,
and that defensive line is one of the best, if not the best in the league.
Jacksonville started with 10 sacks against Tom Savage. It ended the Savage administration
quickly,
within one
right?
game.
In one half. And so they've done a great job. And then Ramsey and A.J. Bouye on the outside have done a great job as well.
Ramsey brings an attitude that is truly, there's a braggadociousness to him. Which we saw with A.J. Green slapping the slap fight right there.
Well, I think, it's funny because Jameis Winston gets a lot of discredit for his will to win. And there was one time last year, I think Ramsey, they were playing the Lions and they lost, and Ramsey started crying. And he was like, I hate losing. I've never been a loser a day in my life. And that's that Florida State attitude because Telvin Smith is there as well. And when I saw that, I was like, all right, they're going to turn this around quicker than what people think because when you have one dude, it hurts him so bad to cry. And that's how I used to play. Like, I remember playing games, we'd lose, I'd go home and cry because you just hate losing so bad you'll do whatever it takes to win. And they've added the right pieces in that situation. Now, this playoff game against the Buffalo Bills is going to be a little bit tougher because they do struggle against mobile quarterbacks. But to me, I always tell people Jacksonville's only going to go as far as Blake Bortles allows them to go. If he doesn't turn the ball over, they're going to win games. I want to say they're 8-0 right now with when they have 0 turnovers. When you do turn the ball over, you have issues. So they have to continue to make sure that they're protecting the ball, stay ahead of the chains, and play with the lead. And if they can do that, they can beat anybody.
By the way, Maurice Jones-Drew here on the Rich Eisen Show. The difference between Ramsey's will to win and Winston's will to win and how it is viewed is winning.
Right. Yeah.
That's the difference.
That's the difference. You got to win.
Because if Winston ate the W and then provided the W,
right,
we're not talking about him eating an L, right?
No.
I mean, it's kind of that simple in the NFL.
It's very simple. I tell people, you put up with a lot of stuff in the league, right? I mean, in everyday life, you're going to, people may do certain things, and you hear all these crazy stories on the Football Life on the NFL Network about how this guy didn't like this guy or how this guy was doing X and Z. As long as you win, they'll put up with it. Because at the end of the day, it's a production-based business. You have to win. I have to say this because it's so funny. Joe Flacco ate a W.
Yeah, he did.
A couple weeks ago.
And
it's crazy how it comes back, right?
Wow. I mean, again, we talked about it at the top of our show, and we talked about it with Peter King also. That 4th and 12, okay.
Andy Brady showed up.
Okay.
Who is this guy?
Andy Brady to Tyler Rice.
Yeah,
okay.
Right.
Okay. Connected, and it put the Bills in the playoffs. Marvin Lewis with a 2-year contract, $170-some-odd thousand in Andy Dalton's charity. And on top of it, the Ravens sitting at home. That one play in Week 17.
4th and 12. Well, let me say this about the Bengals because I did Aftermath on Monday, and there was a lot of speculation. The Bengals, to me, seems like they want a guy that's been in that organization. So they want a Hugh Jackson or a Jay Gruden who's been there, and they understand the thought process of that organization.
Which is what?
You're going to get a lot of players that have second chances. You're going to get a lot of second chance players, right? Vontaze Burfict, Pac-Man, all Adam Jones, all those kind of guys that you're going to have to be able to control. A lot of people can't coach those guys.
But he's not controlling them. That's the problem. He's not controlling them.
They were much better this year.
If that's under control, that Monday night roller derby against Pittsburgh, if that's under control, George Iloka top roping Antonio Brown.
He was trying to make a play on the ball. I feel like that was a little bit different. I think we go back to the Monday or the playoff game where it was like crazy out there with guys. But I felt like this year as a whole that he kind of had them under control. But they have a certain mindset that they feel, even though they haven't won and the expectation there is very high, they have a certain expectation that they feel only certain coaches can coach. And so they want to bring a guy in that they know, that they love, that knows them as well. And those are the two names that came up when you talk about the Bengals. But back to it with Jalen Ramsey and Winston, that's their culture. And Jalen brought that culture to Jacksonville, where you see Yannick Ngakoue out of Maryland. Every time he touches the ball or the quarterback, the ball comes out.
It does.
I mean, it's amazing.
And that's what the Jets are hoping with Adams, too, that he's bringing that sort of change of culture to all that. I've got a couple more minutes left here with Maurice Jones-Drew. Who is Josh Rosen?
I feel like people are discrediting a guy who is thoughtful and articulate and smart. And we don't want those guys in football because they can think outside of the game. No, he is the best quarterback to me, and I'm biased, but the best quarterback prospect since John Elway. I think if you look at the throws that he's made, the things that he's done at UCLA has been phenomenal. He stands up for what's right. Why don't you want a guy that's willing to say, you know what, this is what's wrong in life. This is what's wrong with the NCAA. And I have guys on my team who can't eat, who don't eat when they go home. And so, and you sign the biggest deal in endorsement history, and I have kids on my team that go home to nothing, right? So he stands up, and I feel like everything he says that's outside of football are his thoughts and his views, which we still have a lot of guys and a lot of owners in the NFL that have their own thoughts and views, as we've seen this year. And we don't criticize those guys. So don't criticize this kid for being thoughtful and understanding. If you're going to critique him on his play, because that's what you want, right? I don't care what you think. I just want you to throw the ball to the open guy and win games. And that's what he does. He throws the ball to the open guy, and with the talent that UCLA has had or haven't had, he's put the best tape out there that he could. And if you critique him against Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold and all these other quarterbacks, you'll see he's heads above all of them.
Maurice Jones-Drew, I love hearing what you have to say and just knowing you for as long as I've known you. I've really known you for quite some time.
We're going on 10 years.
Well, I know. Well, I remember the reason why you wore 32 in the league is because all 32 teams passed on you. I was there in your draft day, and just seeing how opinionated you can be and how terrific a broadcaster you can be. If you notice, Chris Brockman, he even dropped the name of 2 NFL Network shows, A Football Life and The Aftermath, just like breadcrumbs, okay? So he's a company man.
You got to be at everything.
As well. All of that together, I just find it somewhat ironic that some of your big moments to come as a broadcaster are in the home of the USC Trojans.
You know what? And you know what? And you're exactly right. And the beautiful thing about it is I'm okay with it because as long as it's painted blue, I'll be fine.
Deep down, I mean, you walk in that building, and
there's a lot of red, but the Rams, they have blue everywhere, and as long as it's blue, I'm good. And then at the end of the day, Chip Kelly's back. And then that's what we're not going to get a chance to talk about it, but Chip Kelly's back, the greatest college coach of all time. You know, we're expecting great things very soon.
Look, there's more time to have a conversation as we're getting ready for a Rams-Jaguars Super Bowl.
No question.
As it's all about you.
And when that happens, when that happens, know that I will not work a day during the week. Know that I will party my face off every day. And, you know, and that's okay.
Yeah. And you'll try to get Timberlake out and the UCLA marching band in for the halftime.
Oh, yeah. Who wants Justin Timberlake? We need to get the Brew and the A-clap going. Have Chip come out there, give a good speech. We'll be good to go.
With the A-clap. All right, Maurice Jones-Drew, you're the best, man.
I appreciate
We'll chat
it.
again soon, hopefully.
Yes.
We'll see you soon. That's Maurice Jones-Drew right here on The Rich Eisen Show. Sam White's your phone calls, Chris Brockman's news update, and when we come back, to me, the biggest development yet in the NBA season. That's next here on The Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.